All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. So if you got your questions, go ahead and post them on there, and then we'll start getting them answered. Looks like we'll start here with Deborah C. Deborah C says, I have a slightly over the top swing, which I have worked on some in the past. I thought I had improved it, but I'm afraid that was an illusion. I recorded myself yesterday, and even though I cannot feel it, I'm still coming over the top. It happens, but just at the beginning of the downswing. Can you show what should happen immediately at the start of the downswing? What are your favorite drills? Thanks. So basically, it sounds like what's going on with Deborah is that, so I grab one of these clubs, is that she's going up to the top, and then kind of that first move down is kind of that the arms kind of moving in the club, moving out this way and coming over in the over the top fashion. That might be an exaggeration of exactly what Deborah's doing. It's probably something a little bit more subtle than that, like the club's just coming out a little bit like that. But still, that's going to cause all kinds of issues. You're going to slice, pull, chop down into the balls. You may even really have some early extension because when you come down like that, you may try to stand up to get the club to drop underneath. There's all kinds of things that you can do to react to that club being in the position, which is going to make it more difficult to hit good golf shots. That doesn't mean you can't hit good golf shots. You can kind of make the compensation and make it happen, but it's going to make it more difficult to be able to get in that position. So basically what we want to be doing is we want to be going up to the top, and depending on how vertical your swing is, we just want to get this club coming down and getting in the slot. So basically what that means is we want to get this club coming down to where this butt end of the club, where we're about this point in the swing, is pointing a little bit outside the golf ball or at the golf ball. When you're coming over the top, it's usually going to be pointing inside the golf ball in that steep position. So if you have a very vertical swing, it may look like this. If you're like Bubba Watson, it may look like this, and then you come down like that. It may look something like that. If you're like Bubba Watson and you come over the top, it's going to look kind of like that, essentially. Now, if you're someone who has a flat swing, like a Matt Kuchar, for example, he's a very flat swing. You're already kind of in that shallow position. You just don't want to go like that. If you're have a really flat swing and you go like that, then you actually may want to work on getting a little bit more vertical, because it's actually being in this position may make you feel like you need to come over the top to get the club down on plane. So it really depends on exactly what's going on there. But what I'd recommend doing, there's two courses that I'd recommend you work on. Number one is going to be the Never Slice Again course. I'd work through all of the drills in the course, get to where, do all the repetitions in there, and get to where it's second nature, to where you're doing it without thought. You mentioned that, you had worked on it in the past, and, maybe you got to where you weren't coming over the top. But this is a mistake that people often make, is that they get to where they're not doing, they fixed the issue, but they haven't really fixed the issue. They've gotten to where they can get into a position, but they didn't take the time to fully ingrain it and make it second nature. Because the moment you stop thinking about that, that's the moment when you're just going to go back doing what you're comfortable with. So that's why we tell you, you got to put in the repetitions to make it second nature. You need to it's like getting into a car and you put that seatbelt on right away. You do it. You don't even think about it. It just happens. That's what you need to happen. It needs to be second nature, completely automatic is basically what it needs to be. Doing something different would feel weird is where you need to get to. So you just need to take the time to ingrain it and make it fully a part of what you're doing. So the Never Slice Again course, that's a course that you may want to work on, as well as the Move course. So the Move course is all about getting that club in that shallow position. And that's also going to help you get rid of that slice. So that's going to help you get that club in the shallow position. And that's going to help you get the club squaring from that position. Because a lot of times, a lot of the reason why people come over the top is because they don't think that they can square the face if they have the club in this kind of position, because they just feel like they're going to hit it a mile to the right. They don't know how to get the face closed down. Well, that's what the Move shows you. It shows you how to get the club shallowed out, and then it shows you how to get the club face square as you're coming down. So the Move section may be what you want to work on there as well. And the same thing, you want to make sure that you do the reps, make it second nature, so that when you stop doing it, or when you stop thinking about it, you're still doing it. It's just an automatic thing to do. So to get to either one of those courses, I'd recommend clicking the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. Choose whichever one you want. You know, it really, I would actually probably start with the Never Slice Again course for sure, and then maybe work to the Move course after that. But either one you can work on, but I definitely work on those and get to where you're getting that club to work from the inside a little bit better. All right. And keep your questions coming here. It looks like we have one more question on here and then no more questions. So go ahead and write your questions in here if you got them, and then we'll keep on moving forward. So Tommy N says, I am able to hit irons and control swing direction both ways well and hit controlled draws and fades as needed. But for some reason, I cannot get the driver to do the same. I am pretty consistently out to in and hit 0 to 2 degrees down, causing too much spin and fade slice no matter what. Any ideas on how to practice? So a couple things to keep in mind here is the driver is always going to be the more difficult club to control and do what you want it to do. It's significantly longer than any of your other clubs. It has less loft on it, so it's just harder to control. So keep that in mind. It's just going to be more difficult. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention is that your 0 to 2 degrees down, that's pretty darn level. Your average tour player actually hits down on the ball 1.3 degrees. So you're being 0 to 2 degrees down on the ball isn't probably giving you too much spin. It's probably more that you're cutting across the ball that the issue is. It's not that you're hitting down on it so much. It's more that you're probably cutting across it, and that's what's causing the fade slice that you're getting. So, like I said, 0 to 2 degrees down is really not much at all. If you think about a clock, right? So if you have 1 minute on a clock, that's 6 degrees. So you're hitting down on the ball less than that amount. It's not really going to cause that much spin. So, and now that being said, you could have less spin if you hit up on the ball, but that's not going to fix your fade or your slice. So, what you need to do is actually learn to hit a hook. The best way to fix any issue is to exaggerate the opposite. So, what you need to do is get to where you can hit a hook. And then once you can hit a hook, I would go to the extreme. Like, try to hit the biggest snap hook you possibly can. Do everything you have to do to hit that big snap hook. So swing way from the inside with a slam shut club face. Try to get that big old snap hook. And once you get comfortable with that, then all you have to do is ease off of that a little bit to get that nice little draw. So that's all it is. And like I mentioned in the previous question, the Never Slice Again course, that's going to be the course that's going to help you to be able to do that. That course is all about basically teaching you how to hit a big hook. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is going to the Never Slice Again course and getting that. And then also keep in mind that when you swing more from the inside, when you were swinging more from the inside here, your angle of attack is typically going to go more up into the ball. So that may even help you hit up into the ball a little bit more in the future as well. So I'll be working on that Never Slice Again course. Go to the click the house icon at the top of the page there. Scroll down on the home page once you get there and click on the Never Slice Again course and get started there. Work through the drills. Go to the extreme, get that big old snap hook going. And then once you get that, you can ease off of it to hit a nice draw. All right. So David E says, I'm a new member. Awesome. Welcome to the website. This week and started a class to increase my distance. Should I do only the days for each day? Should I do only the days for each day, or should I go back and refresh each lesson and allow them to build? So I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but you can do basically the 20-minute distance fix, which I assume is what you're working on. Consists of basically three days of what you got to do. So there's going to be 2 range sessions. 2 separate range sessions, and you can combine those if you want, but usually we find people get better results if you just do 2 range sessions there. And then it consists of a home session, and then there's going to be some videos that go along with it. That aren't necessarily any drills, just more kind of like podcast videos, just mainly information, learning about what helps you get distance and so on and so forth. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is doing it the way it's laid out. Now, if you want to get some extra work in, you can redo. If you want to go out and you did well on the catapult drill and you want to go out and try that catapult drill again, that's completely fine. If you want to do that, if you want to squeeze 3 range sessions into a week, that's completely fine. If you want to go and you want to work, do another range session and work on your the Top Speed Golf system or whatever, that's completely fine as well. But basically, the way it's laid out, the way the 20-minute distance fix is laid out, it's 2 range sessions, 1 home session, and then some videos that you'll want to watch or listen to. So that's pretty much what it consists of. If you want to go out and get some extra work in, that's completely fine. It's completely up to you. But that's just the way the program is worked out. Basically, the main thing that we're trying to show, or not the main thing that we're trying to show, but one thing that we're trying to show at the program is that you don't have to be at the golf course every single day, putting in hours and hours and hours. You don't have to go to the gym and lift weights and do all this stuff to gain distance. It really just takes 2 range sessions and a home session every week. That's really all it takes. And you'll over the course of 3 weeks, and you'll gain a lot of club head speed. And again, I would just keep going through the program until you're happy with how fast you're swinging. Just keep on going through it. 3 weeks, go every 3 weeks, just go through it, or go through it 3 weeks, work on something else, then come back to it and do it again. Do it again for another 3 weeks. So it's really completely up to you. It depends on how much time you have. But hey, if you got extra time and you want to go to the range session and put in extra range sessions, then that's completely up to you. You don't have to do that. Is it going to make a huge difference? Probably not a huge difference, but it can definitely make a little bit of a difference if you want to do that. All right. So Thomas O says, I finally found a huge piece of the mystery for me. Yesterday, I started opening my hips. Much more impact after watching Clay's video of pro swings. I hit a 738 over a huge trap to the green. Hallelujah. Please tell me more about this. So I don't know exactly the video that you're talking about, Thomas. So I do apologize. But usually the biggest reason I see people have trouble opening their hips is because they have the club, because they're coming down steep, the club and everything's too far out in front of them, and they come over the top and things of that nature. Or they'll kind of stand up to get that club to come back down on the plane. And when you stand up, you can't really rotate your body. And when you stand up, you have to flip the club to get to the ball. So that's usually the reason why. So whatever it was, you probably got to where you got the club in the right position and you were reacting to that naturally and able to stay in your posture and square the face. So sounds like you're on the right track. I'm not sure exactly what video you watched. I can't really explain any more about it because I'm not sure exactly what video you watched. But it sounds like you're on the right track for sure, and keep up the hard work. All right. So Bill A says, when I turn my hands to the right doing the move, I unintentionally shorten my backswing, creating disastrous results. At what point in the backswing should I start to turn my hands to the right? So the move is actually not happening. The shallowing of the club is not happening in the backswing. It's happening in the downswing. So that might be the reason why you're having issues. So if you do the shallowing, you turn your hands to the right, you do this in the backswing, a lot of times what happens is in the downswing, you're going to do that, right? If you've ever heard for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, the reason for that is exactly like what we're seeing here. If I come back and I do this in the backswing, I'm going to want to do that in the downswing. So what we got to do is we got to go up to the top, normal backswing, and then that happens in the downswing, in the beginning of the downswing. That's when that shallowing happens. That's when we're turning the doorknob to the right. Now, the second part of the move, which is the squaring of the face, that can happen in the backswing if you want it. You can kind of keep that club like that and turn the handle down as you're bringing it back and be in kind of a position like Dustin Johnson here at the top. You can do that, and for some people find that easier. But that doesn't, just because you do that does not mean, just a quick disclaimer on that, just because you are in this position at the top, that doesn't mean that you're doing that in the downswing. I have lots of students that say, I'm doing the move, I'm doing this at the top, but immediately in the downswing, they do that. So they turn the wrist right back and they cup the wrist, and then they go right back to flipping and everything like they were before. So you have to maintain that the whole time, which is not easy to do. For some people, they find it easier, but for some people, it's very difficult. I find it very, very difficult to do that. So what the move basically is that's in the downswing, you are turning the doorknob to the right. So that's going to be the tennis racket drill. That's what I'd recommend working on in the move course, is the tennis racket drill. That's that turning of the doorknob to the right in the downswing, and then the squaring of the face at the same time. That's basically one move right there. Is I'm shallowing and I'm turning the handle down, and then from this position right here, I'm just rotating into contact with forward shaftling. So if you look at from the face-on view, it looks like this. I'm coming in and I have forward shaftling and a square face there at contact. That's basically what's going on there. So that's more than likely the issue is that you're trying to do it in the backswing instead of the downswing. So Frank B says, hitting the driver fairly well, however, still topping a lot of iron shots, suggestions, or video to watch. All right. So basically, if you're topping your irons, it's usually a product of improper weight shift. So basically, when you top a shot, if this is the golf ball here, what's usually happening is that club's coming down, it's bottoming out, it's missing the turf, and then it's moving up into the golf ball. So when the club's coming down, missing the turf, and hitting up into the golf ball, it usually hits the top of the golf ball, and you end up topping it. So in order to get this club to bottom out after the golf ball, which is what we want, we need to make sure that we get a proper weight shift to our lead side. It may also be ball position. I see a lot of people that tell me they struggle with topping shots, and they play the ball way too far forward in your stance. Your ball position should be basically for any shot that's off the ground. You can really do this for any shot that's off the ground, straight down from the lead ear. So that's going to be usually slightly ahead of the middle of your stance is where a good ball position is for about any shot off the turf. Now, if you're hitting a wedge, you can put it one ball back of that, which puts it about the middle of your stance. And if you're hitting a long iron, fairway wood, hybrid, or something like that, you can put a little bit of a ball forward. But really, you could do straight down from the lead ear with any golf shot. And that's going to allow you to have that low point in the right spot, just barely ahead of the golf ball. So that's what you want to do, is work on getting that proper weight shift to the lead side. And the best course to work on that, you're asking for suggestions to videos to watch. We have a whole course that's going to be all about loading up properly and then getting that proper weight shift to the lead side. And that is the stop chunking and topping course. I'd recommend working through that. And that's going to help you to get to your lead side, get that low point happening further up, and make sure that ball position is good first, and then work to the stop chunking and topping course. To get to the stop chunking and topping course, all you got to do is click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. Just go through there. There's about 20 courses or so on the website. Just go through there, and you'll find the stop chunking and topping course in that list. All right, so keep the questions coming here. I'll be happy to help in any way I can. All right. Looks like we got a couple questions here. So Tom D says, is the low point in the swing just past the lead ear? So the low point can happen at any point. Usually the low point happens about just below the lead shoulder. That's usually where it happens. That's not always the case. A lot of times it has to do with how you're releasing the club and things of that nature and stuff like that. But usually it's going to be around where straight down from the lead shoulder. That's typically because your arm, right, you're coming down like this, and the club's releasing, and that's usually going to be like right in this area is where that low point is. But it's not. It's just going to be right around that area. So Stephen B says, is there something different when hitting a hybrid versus an iron? I hit my irons pretty well, including my 4-iron. I've never been consistent with a hybrid and find myself leaving it in the bag, despite most people saying it's easy to hit them. Am I missing something, or should I look to get a 3-iron to match my clubs on eBay? So no, there's not going to be any difference as far as your swing mechanics are concerned. There's really no difference between hitting a hybrid and an iron. It could be just aesthetics for you. Maybe you swing a little bit differently because you feel a little differently because you feel like the club is so much different. It could be, a lot of hybrids have different shafts in them compared to your iron. So it could be you're having trouble timing the shaft in your hybrid versus what's in your iron. There's lots of factors that are going on there, but there really isn't any difference. I would play your hybrid the exact same way you play your 4-iron. Also, keep in mind is that typically hybrids they're longer clubs, right? It's a longer club, has a little bit smaller of a face. In general, as far as getting the ball up in the air and things like that, they're typically easier to hit. But because of the length of the club, if you're comparing hitting a hybrid to an 8-iron, it's easier to hit an 8-iron, right? If you're comparing hitting a 3 hybrid to a 3-iron, it's going to be easier to hit a hybrid typically. So that's why people say it's easier to hit, because it's easier compared to its counterpart, which would be, I assume you have a 3 hybrid, it's easier to hit than a 3-iron for most people. But that doesn't mean that you may not like hitting a 3-iron better than a 3 hybrid. You just got to check it out and see what works best for you. But yeah, that's, the shaft, it might be a little bit different timing and things like that. It's hard to say without seeing your swing and knowing what's going on. But that's definitely could be a possibility. But check it out. If it doesn't, excuse me, if it doesn't cost much to get you another 3-iron, take them out and see what's better. See what you're more comfortable with. If you're more comfortable with the 3-iron, then stick the 3-iron in the bag. It's really personal preference for the most part. So remember here, T says, does side bend start from the top of the downswing through impact, or does it occur around hip level? So you're getting actually side bend throughout the swing. So side bend is basically defined as if I'm standing like this, if I'm doing that, I'm getting side bend into my right side. And if I go like that, I got side bend into my left side. So in the backswing, as I'm going up to the top, I'm actually getting side bend into my left side here. I'm bending down into my left side. And then in the downswing, as I'm coming down, I'm bending down into my right side. And I usually don't lose that side bend until after that straight line release is when I start to come up. So I'm starting in the downswing. I'm getting some side bend here as I'm starting down and coming into impact. And then after impact, that straight line release is usually when I start coming up. Now, some players like Dustin Johnson, he really chases that ball through, gets that side bend. He's not really losing that side bend until his hands are out in front of his chest here. Some tour players are like that, but you have side bend throughout the swing. It's not just, at address, you're typically going to have just a slight amount of side bend, right? So if we're in our spine tilt here, there's just going to be a very slight amount. And then as I go up to the top, I'm getting side bend into my lead side. And then as I'm coming down, I'm starting to get side bend. As I'm staying in my posture, I'm getting side bend in my trail side here throughout the swing. So Paul J says, how to stop the hands separating at the top and still get a full backswing? Is it okay for the hands to slightly separate? He's talking with the grip. So I assume you're talking about with the grip there. Typically, you don't want to have the hands separating. It's just going to be harder to control the club if you do that, if your hands are kind of separating. So I would make sure that you have a good grip. That's really, the foundation of a good golf swing is a good grip there. So the main thing with a good grip is that you want to have, there's this bone on your wrist here, right outside your wrist. And you want that club to be basically right on that. So you see how my bone right there is right on that club. And then I want to have my fingers nicely spread on here. And this is what we call a short thumb. So if I have a long thumb, right, I have this just in my fingers. I'm not going to have very good control of the club here. Now I can hinge it, great, but I'm not going to have very much control of it because I don't have much coverage. So if that's what's going on, that might be because that might be why you're getting the hand separation, because you're holding it completely in your fingers. So we want to have what's called the short thumb. Now we don't want to be like that because that's going to be hard to hinge the club. This is too short of a thumb. So basically, right in between, right on that bone there, if you have it right there, and then have your fingers spread out on there, that's going to be a good place to be. Now, this may not look the exact same as your hand. Everyone's got different shapes and sizes of hands. Your hand may look a little bit different than mine. Maybe you have a lot longer thumb than I do, or shorter, or something like that. So it may look a little bit different, but that's basically where you want to be. And that's going to allow me to be able to hinge the club if I want to. And that's going to give me plenty of control of it. And then your trail hand comes in. If I squeeze my fingers together here, my pinky and my thumb, you can see that creates a crease in my hand there. And I want that crease to go right on top of my thumb here. And then that gives me some really nice, solidity here. That solidifies everything and allows me to have some really good control of it. So now that's not going to get disconnected at all. So, and then beyond that, what I'd recommend doing is either using an overlap, which is this, so sometimes referred to as the Varden grip. So that just means that you take your pinky here and put it in between the crease of your finger there, just like that. Or you can have it like that. I've seen some people like that, but that's really the most comfortable for me. If I used to use this grip, I actually use what's an overlap, an interlock grip now, which is where you take your forefinger and your pinky and you wrap them around each other, and that's going to really solidify things as well. So you may want to try that. If you have a baseball grip, a 10-finger grip like this, it's completely fine to do that. But if you're having trouble with the hands separating and not staying together as one, it's going to usually lead to some control issues, some consistency issues. So you may want to explore having an interlock or an overlap grip. Typically, the interlock is probably the most popular one. But yeah, give those a try and see if that helps. But if you just follow those grip principles, it's going to make it pretty easy. I wouldn't overcomplicate it more than that. It's just a matter of this bone right here, have it right on that, have that short thumb, have your fingers spread out onto it, and then take your hand with the crease there, put it right on top of your thumb, interlock or overlap the hands, whichever one's most comfortable for you. And then there you go. That's the grip. So basically it looks like that. If you want to look at it from that angle, it looks like that. If I do the interlock, it looks like that. From that angle, looks like that. So that's basically all the grip is. Pretty simple. You don't have to make it more complicated than that. But if your hands are separating, like I said, you're probably going to have some consistency issues there. All right. So Deborah C says, when hitting driver, I sometimes make contact at the center top of the face, sending the ball way up in the sky. I hit 5 metal wood the best off the tee, goes as far or farther than the driver. So we don't want to be hitting the driver off the crown of the club. Typically what's going on when you're doing that, is that you're sliding forward or your compression line is leaning forward too much. The low point is happening basically where the golf ball's where the golf ball is, which we don't want to be doing with the driver. So if I grab my driver here, the club, we talked about earlier, the club comes down and it reaches a low point and then it works back up. So with the driver, because we're hitting it off of a tee, we want that club to reach a low point and then work up into the ball. If you're hitting the ball off the crown of the club, what's happening is the club's coming down, it's reaching its low point at the golf ball, and then it's working up, and then it's hitting it off the crown there. So there could be several things that are going on there. One thing you can do is widen your stance a little bit. So that's going to help you to stay behind the ball a little bit more. So if you have a very narrow stance and you're kind of hitting down on the golf ball, that's going to lead to stop. So widening your stance a little bit can help you to stay behind it. Ball position, make sure your ball position is pretty much with the driver. When you're hitting it off of a tee, straight down from the lead shoulder is a good spot. I hear people often say, off the inside of the foot, but that's not always the best position, because if you have a very narrow stance, that puts it kind of far back in your stance. If you have a very wide stance, that puts it too far forward in your stance. Now, generally, if you have kind of a normal width stance, just inside the lead foot is probably going to be a good spot. But pretty much for everybody, straight down from the lead shoulder is going to be a good spot. So wider stance, straight down from the lead shoulder. That's going to help you stay behind the ball a little bit, get that low point a little bit more behind the ball, and allow you to get more up on it as you're coming through. The other thing is your compression line. So we talk about this in the Top Speed Golf system. What the compression line is the line that goes up from my lead ankle, my lead hip, and my lead shoulder. And this is at contact, And we want those to be all in a straight line here, slightly angled away from the target. That's what we call the compression line. So if we're leaning forward like this, my low point is going to get moved forward, and I'm going to typically top my drives or hit down on the drives, which we don't want to do either. We want to get that nice high launch, low spin, great distance. And in order to do that, we need to be hitting up on the golf ball. We need to be more angled away as we're coming into contact here. And so that's the compression line course. So 3 things you want to look at there if you're topping your drives. Number 1 is I would look at your ball position, make sure that it's straight down from your lead shoulder, somewhere in that area, not in the middle of your stance or slightly ahead of the middle of your stance or anything like that. If it's further back of that, that's probably part of the issue. Number 2 is going to be to widen your stance a little bit. That's going to help you to stay behind the ball a little bit more. It's going to make it easier to achieve that compression line if you're someone who's sliding forward. And number 3 is the compression line, making sure that you're nice and angled away from the target as you're going through there. So you may want to go to the Top Speed Golf system and work on the compression line course. So the easiest way to get to the compression line course is to go up to the top of the page there, click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, scroll down on the home page there and work through the compression line course, level 1, level 2, level 3. Get that fully ingrained so that you're not topping or hitting the ball off the crown of your club anymore, and that's going to help you hit your driver a lot further than what you're hitting your 5-wood. All right. So, and then Deborah asks, what is happening when this occurs? All right. So yeah, we explained all that. All right, cool. Next question here. All right. So James Dem says, steering. I think he's starting to say starting the backswing. I move my right elbow close to my ribs, and it seems to have more control of the club. I guess this makes the backswing shorter. This a wrong move. Thanks, Q. So this can make you more consistent. So what he's talking about is in the backswing, he's taking his elbow and keeping it close to his side. This is what I see a lot of people. They talk about being connected, right? Staying connected. Now, you can be more consistent if you do that. The problem is it's not a wrong move. You could absolutely play golf doing that. It's not the wrong move. It's just not a very powerful move. It's going to be hard to get much speed when you do that, because when you keep that elbow on your side there, on your ribs, this is about all I can bring the club back. Now, I can be very consistent when I do this, but if I don't get disconnected here and let the club get up here and get a big, powerful turn, I'm just not going to hit the ball very far. I'm not going to be able to create as much speed. So you got to find what works best for you. You may hit the ball better from that position, but get the hands more elevated, get more speed, and learn to hit the ball better from that position would be the best bet. And that's really what all the good players do. So that's what I'd recommend doing. There's really no higher correlation to improving your distance, improving your scores, improving your handicap than distance. If you hit it further, it's just easier to play golf. That's all there is to it. You imagine if you are playing a 400-yard par 4, right? And you swing 90 miles per hour. That's going to be a 225-yard drive if you're lucky, right? So that's if you really smoke it down the middle. You hit it 225 if you're swinging about 90 miles per hour. So if that's the case, then you're going to have 175 yards in. And if you have 90 mile per hour club head speed with your driver, I'm guessing 175 is going to be a hybrid, a 5-wood, something like that. So, you're going to be hitting, you're going to be hitting a long club into your approach. Now, if you gain 10 miles per hour and you now your drive is 250 yards, easy, and your second shot is 150. Now, not only did your driver club head speed go up, but everything else went up too. So maybe from 150 before, maybe you would be hitting like a 7 or 8 iron, but now you're hitting a 9 iron. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to hit a lot more greens if I'm hitting driver 9 iron versus driver hybrid or 5-wood. I'm just going to hit a lot more of those greens. So it's just a lot easier to play golf when you're hitting it further, for sure. So I'd recommend letting it go, working on getting getting a little bit more vertical with the swing, and learn to hit the ball from that position, because that's going to allow you to get a lot more speed down at the bottom, which is going to allow you to get more distance. All right, so Deborah C says, can I do the compression line and stop slicing at the same time? I'd recommend getting the slice worked out first, because part of what's going on is when you're probably swinging over the top, when that's going to move that low point forward. So when you work on the slice, it's probably going to get you to where you're doing the compression line automatically without even thought. So I'd be working on that slicing first, get that worked out, and then working through that may fix the compression line thing on its own. If it doesn't, then you'll want to work on the compression line after that. But I would do the stop slicing first. All right, so Abdul R says, I've recently incorporated the squat before my downswing and is having very good success with it, hitting the ball more solid and straighter than I have in 30 years of golfing. My only issue is that the ball flight is so little higher than I would like. Is there something I should do to get lower ball flight? So basically, to get lower ball flight, you need to de-loft the face. And that's by getting forward shaft lean. The best courses on the website to get forward shaft lean are going to be the straight line release course and the move course, are basically the two. So you're going to want to work on the straight line release, getting that club to release out in front. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if you are coming into contact, you're hitting the ball very high, it's most likely because you're coming in and you're doing this. You're adding loft to the face, right? So you may be doing your squat move here in the backswing or in the downswing, but at contact, you're definitely got to be coming up as you're coming in, because you're most likely flipping the ball as you're coming into contact. Now, in order to get this to where I'm hitting the ball lower, I got to de-loft the face so that I can get some more compression on the ball. In order to do that, I'm going to want to work on that straight line release. So if you see here, this is where we talk about the straight line release. That's where the club is releasing out in front. To be the release, it has to be where the club is splitting the forearms. So if I bring this up here, that club is splitting the forearms right there. So a straight line release where the club's releasing out in front about 45 degrees. If I rewind that to contact, that's going to result in forward shaft lean. If I'm releasing that club early, you can see right there, if I rewind that, I'm not really having any forward shaft lean there. I'm releasing that club early. So that's going to be what you're going to want to work on, the straight line release, or you may want to work on the move. If you're coming down steep, that may be the problem as well. Because when you come down steep, when you're in this steep position, you've got to stand up to get that club to come back down on plane. And when you stand up, you have to flip and release the club early to make that happen. So you want to make sure that you are shallowing out the club, getting that club in the right position, and squaring that face earlier as you're coming into contact. So that's going to be the move course. But I work on that straight line release first. To get to either one of those courses, all you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the page there. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. Work through that stable fluid spine, or sorry, not stable fluid spine, the straight line release course. Make sure that you're in good shape there, and then work on that the move course if you need to. All right. So Mira T says, "What is the best way to hit a chip pitch shot in wet ground?" It's really the same technique that you would always use if you're hitting a chip. It's really the same exact technique. You're coming in, you're trying to brush the turf there. You play the ball about in the middle of your stance, lean forward a little bit, have your weight forward, and then it's just back and through brushing the turf. It's really the same thing. But keep in mind, you're probably not going to have, it's probably, if it's wet conditions, typically the ball's not going to roll out as much, right? So you may need to hit the ball a little bit harder because it's going to come in and land a little bit softer. So that's really about the technique itself is really no different. It's just, because of the softness and the wetness of the conditions, you may need to hit the ball a little bit harder to get it to roll out all the way to the hole. Same thing for a pitch shot. You basically play it in the same way, but understand that when the conditions are wet, you're not going to get as much spin on the ball. So you may want to plan on the ball rolling out a little bit. So if I have moisture on the face, if I'm coming in, it's the same exact technique, but you're just going to have to realize that if there's any moisture getting on the face, this ball will slip on the face a little bit, and then it won't have as much spin. So that may be, you may want to take that into account whenever you're hitting shots. But also, if it's wet outside, it may hit the green and may be softer. So it may kind of counteract with each other. You might not have as much spin, but it may dig into the green a little bit. So you just have to, go practice that and see, what kind of conditions that you're getting. But as far as technique is concerned, it's the exact same. There's really no difference in technique. The only difference is that you got to understand that you're not going to get as much spin on the ball because it's going to be slipping on the face a little bit, and it may grab on the green a little bit more if the green's wet. But if the greens are really firm and you're in kind of a wet lie or something like that, understand that ball is probably going to roll out. It's not going to have much spin on it when it gets to the hole. All right, so keep the questions coming here. We got about 15 minutes or so keep the questions coming, and we'll keep answering them for sure. Oh, and Ramiro, if you want to work on proper technique as far as for pitch shots and chip shots, I'd recommend going to our chipping mastery section for chipping, and then our Top Speed wedge system for pitch shots. And you can find both of those courses on the homepage. All you gotta do is click the house icon at the top of the page, scroll down on the homepage, and you'll see a list of all the courses. Go to the chipping mastery course to work on chipping, and the Top Speed wedge system to work on pitching. If you want to look at the pitching and wedge techniques as well as the chipping techniques, but really no difference between wet ground, dry ground. It's just how the ball is going to react on the face. Understanding that the ball may roll out more in the conditions of the green when you hit it on there. Is it going to roll slow, or is it really firm and fast? Understanding that, and that's going to help you to get the ball closer to the hole for sure. All right, so keep the questions coming here. All right, so Paul J says, how to stop hitting behind the ball on a chip, how to make consistent swing, no risk. So if you're hitting behind the ball with a chip, it's most likely, what I usually see is it's usually a combination of, I talked about this yesterday, is number one is ball position. Typically when I see people hit the ball, they hit behind the ball, they actually have the ball too far back in their stance, and then they keep moving it further back in their stance because they keep hitting it behind the ball. Keep that when you're hitting a chip shot, that ball's got to be about in the middle of your stance. So if I have the ball, if I angle this down, if I have this ball in the back of my stance, so if I have this ball way back here, I'm really chopping down into the golf ball. So my timing has to be perfect with where I strike the ball in the ground. Whereas if I have it about in the middle of my stance, about right here, I can come through and I can hit an inch behind it or an inch forward of it, and I'm still going to hit a good shot here. So that's very important to have that ball about in the middle of your stance here. That's about right where you want it. Now, the other thing is I want to have my weight forward. If I have my weight kind of on my back foot or balanced, that club is bottoming out before the golf ball, and I may come back here and I may hit in front of my trail foot here, and I may hit 4 or 5 inches behind it. I'm going to end up with a poor shot. And a lot of times when you play that ball back in your stance, you'll kind of lean on your back foot to try and get behind it, and it just compounds the issue. So ball about in the middle of your stance, weight forward here, and then, like you said, no risk. We don't want to be flipping through and helping it into the ball. That's often why I see people chunk chip shots, is because they're trying to help the ball up in the air. They're not trusting the loft on the face. If you don't trust the loft on the face, use higher loft. Trust the loft that you're using on the face, that it's going to get the job done. Keep the hands kind of forward here as you're coming through. We don't need to have a ton of wrist cock and flip through contact. That's just not necessary. It's really more of a shoulder movement, quiet wrist kind of movement, and keeping the hands forward and getting that ball going. So that's basically all there is to it. Weight forward, ball in the middle of your stance, basically just rocking the shoulders back and forth, and there's your chip shot right there. That's all it is. So that's going to help you to start getting those really, really good consistent contact. If you want to work on that and to work on more drills, to work on that, I'd recommend going to the Chipping Mastery course, Paul. So to get to that Chipping Mastery course, all you got to do is click the house icon, scroll down on the homepage there. You'll see a list of all the courses. Click that Chipping Mastery course, and that'll get you started with the right technique. But those are the main things that you see for chunking it. Is that ball too far back, weight back, get that ball about in the middle of your stance, weight forward, and keep the wrists ahead of the ball, and that's going to allow you to get ball first contact and solid contact every single time. All right, so James then says, what drill to get the club high in the backswing? Thank you again. So there's a great drill in the 20-minute distance fix drill, or in the 20-minute distance fix program. It's called the skyscraper drill. So basically what we're talking about there is just getting the hands and the club to work up. So right now, because you are keeping that elbow into your side, that club is working like this, like that way. So if you're doing that, then that elbow is actually going to be, your trail elbow is going to be working out away from your body. It's the opposite of what you're doing. It's working out away from your body, and it's going up, up, up. I would really exaggerate it as much as you possibly can. See if that's a good place to be, and then ease off of it a little by little by little if you need to. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is getting that club to work up. That's in the skyscraper drill in the 20-minute distance fix course. I believe it's in week 3 of the 20-minute distance fix course. To get to the 20-minute distance fix course, or you can just search the word skyscraper as well in the search engine, but to get to the 20-minute distance fix course, go to the top of the page there and click on the instruction tab. At the top of the instruction tab, you should see 20-minute distance fix. Click on that, and then go to week 3 skyscraper drill and work through the drill to get your hands up higher. So Deborah C says, you talk about club head speed and distance. I would like to hit it, and I think I'm capable of 34 40 yards longer. What does my club head speed need to be? Thanks. So basically, for every mile per hour that you gain, it's typically going to be about 2.6, 2.5 yards. So in order to hit it 30, 40 yards further, you probably need to gain roughly about 15 miles per hour of club head speed, which is not obscene. That is not out of the ordinary. We get people that gain 15 miles per hour as club head speed all the time. So I just recommend working through our 20-minute distance fixed course. We're going to get you to where we're going to work on your range of motion. So there's basically 3 big areas within the 20-minute distance fixed course where you're going to see big increases in your distance. So number 1 is working on that range of motion. That's getting that big shoulder turn, that big shoulder turn, making sure if you've got a short shoulder turn, you're like this, you may be able to get huge bumps in distance because that's a big piece of where you're able to get club head speed from, increasing that range of motion. And the reason for that is that you're creating more space and time to accelerate the club. The more space and time that you can create, the more club head speed you can create, and the further potential distance you can have. So that's a big one. So included in getting a bigger shoulder turn is also high hands. We talked about earlier about how a flat swing can really reduce your distance because I just don't have as much space here to accelerate the club. But if I get my hands up higher, now if you look at Bubba Watson, right, not a real big guy, kind of skinny, lanky guy, but can hit the ball a mile. And that's because he has very high hands. He gets the club way up there, and that allows him to have more space and time to accelerate the club. So that's number 1 is your range of motion. Number 2 is going to be your sequencing, essentially. So sequencing consists of loading up and then getting a good momentum transfer. Every powerful athletic movement consists of a loading up phase and then a momentum transfer phase. If you think about a baseball pitcher, right, when he's in his windup, he's on his back foot, he's loading up, and then he fires to the plate. Can you imagine a baseball pitcher just going like this, right? He's not going to have a lot of speed, right? He needs to wind up and push off that rubber and really fire toward the plate. That allows him to have a lot of power there when pitching, just like we do in the golf swing. So that's the first part of sequencing is the load up and then momentum transfer to the lead side. And then the second part of sequencing is going to be the generation of lag. So that's when we're coming down here, we want to see this club lagging behind a little bit, and then we want to work on that release of the lag. So not only do we want to generate that lag, but we want to release it as hard as we can. That's how we're going to be able to get speed. If we're doing this from the start of the swing, we're casting the club, we're burning up all that energy out here, and we don't have anything really left by the time we get to the golf ball. We're going to be losing a lot of speed. So if you look at your swing and you see a lot of casting, there could be a lot of speed to be gained there. And it'd be definitely beneficial for you to work through the 20-minute distance fixed course. The last piece, and this is kind of the game changer, the one that people don't really think about when it comes to gaining club head speed, and that's what's called neural adaptation. And basically what it means in a nutshell is that when you're going through all these drills, you're going to be swinging with 100% effort. You're not going to be just kind of swinging nice and easy. You're going to be swinging with 100% effort. And it may be wild, and that's part of just doing speed training. But when you swing with 100% effort, you're recruiting your bigger muscles to do the action, the muscles that contract faster, and that's going to give you more club head speed. That doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do out in the golf course, but you're training your body to swing harder, and it's becoming its new normal. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've gone through the program. I went from 108, 110. Basically I took 10 swings and they were all within 108, 110. And I worked on my club head speed, and I swung as hard as I could through the whole program. And I got to where my as fast as I could speed was 124 miles per hour. Was it perfectly right down the middle, center struck, flushed? No, it wasn't. But that's the highest club head speed that I got up to. Now, my playing speed was about 117, 118 when I was doing that. So that was the speed that I was able to get the ball in the center of the face and consistent and work the ball the way that I want to. So basically, I gained 10 miles per hour of playing speed working through the program, and that's huge. That's a big difference. That's 25 yards easy off the tee. So that could be. I mean, that's a big difference when you're playing par fours and you're hitting 2 or 3 clubs less, or you're playing par fives and maybe they're a par 5 you would never really get to, but you have a chance to get into, or it's a par 5 that you got to before, but now instead of hitting a hybrid or a 3-wood into the green, I'm hitting like a 5-iron or a 6-iron into the green. So it makes golf a lot easier when you're hitting it further, and working through that 20-minute distance fix course is going to be the best way to do that. It's a 3-week program, and it's 3 days a week too. It's not even a ton of time. We're not asking you to go to the range and get in the gym and things like that. We're asking you to go to the range for basically 20 minutes for 2 days, where there's a home session, and then we got some videos for you to watch. It's not a ton of time, and that's part of the reason why we named it that, is because we wanted you to know, hey, it doesn't take a ton of time and effort. You don't have to be doing this every single day to gain distance. It just takes a small amount. So to get to that course, to get started on that, click the go up to the top of the page and click the instruction tab. That's going to take you, if you click on that, that's going to expand a menu, and you'll see right there at the top, it say 20-minute distance fix. Click on that to get started working on it today, and it can really change your game. I wouldn't definitely wouldn't dismiss it. And even if you're someone who's like, I hit it far enough, it's fine. Nobody hits it far enough. Nobody. Everyone can benefit from hitting it further. Dustin Johnson can benefit. Brooks Koepka can benefit. It just makes it easier. So, if you're on a course where, normally you would hit driver, but maybe you can hit 3-wood and you have a little bit more control with it instead, and be able to play the hole a little bit better. Everyone can benefit from getting some more distance. So highly recommend working on that course for sure. All right, so a couple more minutes left. All right, so what is the biggest club head speed gain that I have seen? I think we had somebody come to a clinic, and I think they gained 36 miles per hour or something like that. So this is just somebody who just was swinging nice and easy, just really, really nice and easy, really short shoulder turn, just nice and easy. And then we got them a big shoulder turn, and we got them to where they're swinging hard, and they weren't casting the club. And I think it was 36. It was 30 something, but I think it was 36 miles per hour. Now, is that a typical gain? No, it's not a typical gain. Typically, what we see on average is 10 to 12 miles per hour is usually what we see for the gains. But every now and then we'll get somebody that gains 20 miles per hour or 24 miles per hour or 17. Typically when we have a clinic, we'll have most people are around that 10 miles per hour range. We'll have a couple people that were like 6, 7 miles per hour. And then we'll have a couple people that were like 17, 18 miles per hour. That's typically how it works, out of the 10 people that we have at a clinic. So, but the people going through the 20-minute distance fix, when we launched it, the pilot program, and we were following people's gains, people were gaining 20 some miles per hour going through the program on their own. So definitely, basically the average is going to be around 10 to 12 probably is what you'll do. And a lot of times you go out and you do that quick start in the 20-minute distance fix, and you'll see immediate gains right then and there. There's a quick start. So it's a 3-week program, but before the 3-week program, we have a little quick start thing, which the quick start is basically just a culmination. It's like a shortened version of a lot of the drills in the course. So you kind of just go through that and get yourself off to a great start. And typically, it's not uncommon to gain 10 miles per hour just like that in the first one. We see that all the time. So highly recommend going through the course. But yeah, it's definitely going to be pretty awesome if you work through it. It's going to make your game a lot easier. It's just so much easier to play golf when you're hitting it further. There's just no doubt about it for sure. All right, so we got one more question here from David E. David E says, when I do the step drill, when I take a step forward, the moment I start the backswing, when I do the swing to hit the ball, should I do the same thing or just try and replicate the feel or weight shift that comes from the practice swing distance fix course? Yeah, so if you're working on the step drill, you want to have that same sensation, but you want to make sure that you're loading up. So it's not just you're not moving your weight to your lead side in the backswing. You're loading up as your momentum is transferring to your lead side. That's really the big key to that drill. That's a problem that I see with a lot of people when they try to do the drill, is that they just get here at the top of the swing. They're here. Well, that's not a powerful position. You want to look at it as if you're loading up and you're getting that momentum transfer to your lead side. in that last part of the backswing. That's when that's happening. So get that with your practice swing, and then do it with your swing with the ball. But most likely, what most people do is they don't really start that momentum shift or that weight shift until their arms and hands are already here in the downswing. By that time, it's just too late. The hands and arms are just going to race out in front of the body. What we want to do is we want to get to where we're on our lead side at that start of the downswing. We've got some pressure in that lead foot, and we're able to kind of pull through and really whip this club through and be able to create some good club head speed. So that's what I'd be working on. But make sure that you're not just going to your left side, to your lead side to start the backswing. It's you're loading up as you are getting momentum moving forward. That's really what we want to be doing there. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, I will talk to you next time. Thanks.